All right. All right. Overtime Sports Show, episode 6. We are back coming to you live on a Wednesday evening, a day outside of our usual spot on Tuesdays. We push the show back a day to allow everybody to have their Halloween and trick-or-treating fun. I'm Greg Gross. As always, my co-host Dan O'Brien is here. Dan, how are we doing on a Wednesday?
Doing awesome. Still hyped from our interview last week with our boy Chip. Still got to give him a lot of love. I don't know if our boys have seen 111 views on that small little clip. So that's super impressive. Again, just a phenomenal man, a phenomenal interview. We can't say enough, but just feeling great. And yeah, day after, we wanted to let all the kids and everybody have a little fun on Halloween. So we're ready to rock and roll, a little sports, a little action, and rocking and rolling. Let's make it happen, Captain.
That's right. That's right. I like it. By now, everybody knows the drill. We want to make this show interactive, so hit us up on all the socials at OT Sports Show on the X, Facebook, Overtime Sports Show, and drop us an email, info at overtimesportshow.com. Hit us up, and let's make this thing interactive. Got a full slate of sports to talk about today, some good, some bad, everything in between. Before we get started, we talked about it a little bit, and I got a comment on the hat, Dan. Liking the Blue Jays. I'm liking the color combination, but we talked about it, and I just don't know if I'm digging wearing a hat in your own division as a Yankees fan. Tell the people the story behind it.
So it's a story. If our regular watchers, what I'm trying to do here, if nobody has noticed yet, trying to wear a different hat every episode. So I still got about 5 or 6 in my repertoire. But main reason on this one is it was an alternate hat for the Blue Jays that wear it with their powder blue uniforms. So I thought it was a cool looking hat. And I mean, there's still a lot of faith with my Yankees, but I mean, the hat doesn't really mean too much. I mean, I'm not going to wear it to a Blue Jays hat. And, you know, I'll do my little Canadian accent when I can. And I thought it was fitting too. We have a show with a friend, Chris Dolan, who we might try to get on here, future. He's actually in Montreal right now for the Montreal Canadiens, doing a little NHL for his job. So I thought I'd give him a little love to wearing a Canada hat, team from Canada, and just trying to switch it up. And you guys will see more hats to come. So
I like
see what happens with it. Yeah, just make it
like
happen.
the uniqueness. You tried to stump Chip last week with your.
Oh, he had nothing with it. Nothing.
He wasn't having it. No, he was on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But I like it. It's a good looking hat. Just for me in the division, it's tough, but I get it. I like that you're bringing a new hat each week.
You will see I'll not wear a Red Sox hat though, so I will tell you that 100,000,000%. Will not wear a Red Sox hat.
You better not.
Nope.
So, all right, we can jump right in. We're gonna maybe go off script, I think, for a moment, and instead of talking about the NFL like we usually do, kind of wanted to change things a little bit. Talk about something that happened over the weekend. It's pretty unfortunate. Pretty hard to watch. Hard to even talk about, but I think it deserves talking about for a moment. A lot of people probably saw, whether you're a hockey fan or not, it was kind of all over the headlines. There was a pretty tragic incident that took place over in England in one of the minor league hockey associations over there. I believe it's the EIHL, and
that is correct.
Former NHL player Adam Johnson was involved in a collision with an opponent, and unfortunately, he did pass away. I believe this was Saturday afternoon, evening sometime. Very, very unfortunate. I heard about the news, I think Saturday evening. It might have been Sunday. Certainly was a shock, really, really devastating to everybody that knew him, his teammates, family, people close to him. For a couple days, it was one of those things where I didn't really try to look into it too much. When something like this happens, it's kind of hard to find words. I think you're always sad to hear about something like this. So I personally tried to avoid it for a bit. I had no interest in watching the video or even really reading too far into it. I just really thought it was a freak accident, which it still could be very much that. But the one thing that kind of made me change a little bit and start to actually look into it was when I just heard through some news and media outlets that there was some speculation, and I know that that's all that it is right now. I don't want to say it's anything beyond that, but there were already some questions as to whether or not this truly was an accident. So I did actually try to take a small peek at the video. And again, I believe everybody is innocent until proven guilty in this country and most countries. I know this took place in England, but I think everybody deserves a fair trial to be heard and whatnot. Certainly not trying to make anybody guilty in the court of public opinion, but when you watch the video, at least initially to me, it did leave a little bit of doubt, perhaps, as to whether or not this was truly just an accident. When I watched the video, it seemed to me that there might have been some deliberation behind it. Not saying in intent to kill or anything of that magnitude, but it looked like there was intent to at least make contact. I've played hockey for 30 plus years, been involved in numerous collisions, some very, very awkward where, it's a contact sport. It's a fast sport. You're constantly moving and twisting, and it can be easy to get into collisions where your body's just contorting a lot of different ways. I've been there. I've been injured in awkward falls. There's been some compilations people have put together showing collisions like what occurred on Saturday. But as I've watched a lot of those compilations, most of them that I've seen involved players who are sort of falling forward and their legs kind of come up from behind them, which causes the skate to connect with some player that's standing behind them where the skate kind of comes up. Very few, if any, have I seen that looked similar to what I saw on Saturday, where the leg sort of just kind of comes up and out and forward. Very, very what I would consider awkward is really all I can say. And I'm not trying to condemn anybody. Dan, I know you're going to have thoughts on this in a moment. It may be the same as mine. It may be different. I'm not by any means judge and jury, executioner, trying to condemn anybody. But I do think, given the fact that somebody lost their life here, I think that's what I try to put in perspective, that somebody died, a son, probably a brother. I know he had a fiance. Somebody tragically lost their life. And I think it really deserves a full investigation. I'm kind of going to just step back from it. I think that's actually going on. I think the right people are starting to look into it now. And I think that's all that needs to happen. I'd like to believe that there was no intent behind it. It's hard to fathom that somebody would do something like that willfully, intentionally, but you never know. All I can say is, people make mistakes, as violent and brutal as those mistakes can sometimes be. But I'm reminded of incidents that have taken place in the NHL in years past. Guys like Marty McSorley, the Donald Brashear incident with Todd Bertuzzi. It's happened before, not on this level, but players do make mistakes. It's a violent sport. And I just hope that wasn't the case here, but I do think an investigation is warranted, and the right things will come from it. So that's sort of my 2 cents. I wanted to lead out with it. It's a tough thing to talk about. I know, Dan, you got some thoughts, and then eventually we'll switch gears into something a little bit lighter and brighter. But I think it was important to bring up today because, it's something we never want to see. And I know the EIHL is already making mandates to enforce the use of neck protectors next year. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see the NHL, when they come up with the next CBA, to make that a mandate in the NHL as well. But what do you think, Dan? I know you got some thoughts on it as well.
So 100% what you were saying. I mean, but who's to say this? I'm very surprised it doesn't happen more often with how violent the game is, with how hard these players hit, how fast these players skate. I mean, I know you said that it looked like with his leg how it went out. I mean, maybe there could have been some maul intent, but at the end of the day, who is it to really say? I mean, the ice could have been, I don't remember how far it was into the game. And I'm not taking anybody's side here. Let me start with that. But the ice could have been dull on that side. So maybe the Johnson was skating quick or skating slowly. Maybe the guy who hit him within the throat, maybe his skate got caught as well. But My thing is, yeah, I don't think everybody, like you were saying, everybody's proven guilty or innocent until proven guilty. So I would say they're doing the right thing. I mean, they're going to want to cross every T, dot every I, especially if it was a family member. I mean, imagine if it was your family member or my family member, we'd want to go the whole 90 yards and figure out exactly what the heck happened. But I'm reading your article right here, and why wouldn't players wear neck guards? It goes similar to, we don't really talk about NASCAR, but back 2001, NASCAR Dale Earnhardt, he died at Daytona 500, and they call it a Heinz device where it holds your neck in tight. Why would you not wear that to save? Because I mean, you're going at 200 miles into a wall, and that's how he pretty much snapped his neck, was Dale Earnhardt. I don't know if you know too much about that death, but
Yeah.
my whole thing is these sports, especially hockey, football, especially NASCAR, they're dangerous altogether. Why not wear safety protocols just in case? If it's going to hinder your performance by less than 1%, I mean, why the heck not? So I think more safety is better as long as they do enough studies on it and to figure out if it's really going to hinder somebody's sports ability, it's really going to hinder their ability to play on the ice, and if it's going to mess with them with their temperature, because it's a hot sport. You're going to, not a hot sport, but you're going to sweat a lot, obviously, as you know, playing hockey. So I'm with you 100%. I would just say do a full investigation, but who's really to know if it was a lot of malintent, a lot of intentional, and just very, very, very sad, because now the senseless death, as I'm reading this article right here, now what if he had a neck guard? It just slices the neck guard. It doesn't mess with anything with the neck. And it was just really unfortunate and very, very sad. So
It is.
it's just, but I think they're doing the right thing by doing a complete investigation. But
Yeah.
is this player really going to say, "Oh, what happened here?" Or I did this on purpose? Like, is he gonna? So it's just very unfortunate, because
It really is.
and like to start, I don't mean to cut you off, but like I said, I mean, I'm very, very, very surprised, and this is going to probably sound a little harsh. I'm surprised this doesn't happen more often, just with,
Right.
like I said, just with the ability of all the athletes out there. So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I hate to say it, but you almost think that it's not if, but when something like this happens.
yeah,
And just to take it a step further, I'm sitting here thinking just out loud, this is a show, and we don't have all the answers of the things we talk about. But just spitballing ideas, to your point, there's been a lot of ways to improve the game, make it safer over the years, including one of the rule changes they made. I say a couple of years, but it's been more than that now, where they changed the no touch icing rule, where a guy is going behind the red line, behind the goal to retrieve the puck. And it was not too long ago, 10 years maybe, where you'd have these violent collisions against the boards of guys racing to the puck. And that was resulting in, head injuries, neck injuries, shoulder injuries, everything.
Yeah, boarding.
And I
screws
think,
you up.
yeah, I think that helped by changing that rule. But who's to say that a regular collision is not going to leave another player paralyzed, is not going to cause them, brain damage? They wear helmets, they wear protective gear. But to your point, players are wearing blades, almost knives on their feet. And if we start protecting the neck, I think that's a good measure. But what about the wrist? I mean, players wear gloves, they come down a certain degree, but the wrist, the arm, there's still ways that players can be cut, and I don't know, short of them being mummified and wearing everything possible head to toe, that they're covered in their entire bodies. I don't know how you protect all of it, but I do think it is the right thing to institute neck protectors next year. It's
for sure. Yeah.
Such an important, vital thing that's necessary. And, I think hockey's not alone in this. I heard some things being talked about in the MLB, for instance. There's pitchers that throw triple digits on the regular 100-mile-per-hour fastballs, and there's guys who get beamed. Look at a guy like John Olerud, who ended up wearing a batting helmet going to first base, and even after he got a hit because he took one off the dome, one game. So the NHL is not alone. There's sports out there that are all prone to injury, and I think it's at least a good thing that the leagues are starting to look into ways to make the game safer.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, not to stay on this topic, because like I said, it's a tough topic, as you said. And But I mean, we're going on 2024. We only have a month, 2 months pretty much of 2023. The technology is there. I mean, there's
Yeah.
people out there every single day. There's somebody right now trying to make something better. Why not put it in a prototype, or why not start it in the minor leagues like they're doing with baseball? They're doing a lot of prototypes in the minor leagues to try to make the game better. And I would say I'm all for it for safety. I mean, they nowadays they have stuff that barely weighs anything, and you put it around your neck or you put it around your wrist, like you were saying. If as long as it, not to go to my other fact, as long as it doesn't hinder the athlete's ability to play, and it doesn't affect them physically or mentally or any other way, I'd say I'm all for it. There's going to be a couple jackrabbits that say, "Oh, I don't want to do this because it affects the game." But why? That's what I'm saying. Why? You're getting paid millions of dollars. There's a bunch of fans out there that watch it for fun and enjoyment. I would say I'm for anything to make the game safer and better and more enjoyable. And
Yeah.
and now, like I said, nowadays, 2 months left in 2023. We're about to go to 2024. The technology is there, and people are doing studies. I mean, look at all the social media, all the videos. People are watching the game every second, every millisecond. So just and then it happens in other sports, like you were saying. I mean,
Yeah.
look at football. They stopped the blind side block. That helped out with knee collision. I mean, knee or neck whiplash. Then they stopped the below the knee too. That helped with ACLs blocking. So
Yeah.
sports are going in the right way, and it just sucks that it takes something like this for people to like open their eyes and say, "Holy moly, we need to really pay attention to this," because you played hockey, and I've never really played hockey, but I watch it a lot. But I would say the sharper the skate, the more better you are on ice. The more you're able to chip into
Sure.
ice makes you a lot
Mhm.
faster. So
Yep.
sharper the blade. I mean, you just put two and two together, and unfortunately, this happened the other night, and it just,
Yeah.
not to kill it, and it just sucks that this had to bring the attention that we're talking about it and everybody else is talking about it. So
Yeah.
it's very
Putting the right
unfortunate.
measures out there to make the game safer is
Yep.
the right direction. Because to your point, if we don't do that, take advantage of the technology, the science, the data that we have out there, then ultimately they're going to do away with some of these games. They're going to deem them not safe.
Exactly.
Especially even going down to the lower levels when kids start playing games. There was a lot of talk about parents not wanting to put their kids into football because it wasn't safe.
Concussions.
And
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So if it goes down even to that level when starting them young and people don't want to, parents don't want to put their kids into certain sports, we as fans, as adults who have grown up watching these sports for many, many years, they're not going to be around anymore. So leagues
Yep.
have to do what they have to do to make the game safer. Hopefully, we don't
Yep.
see another one of these
Yep.
incidents
And all it's going to hurt is us, the fans,
ever
like me,
again.
you, people watching. That's what it's going to
Yeah.
hurt,
Yeah.
because they don't want to make the measures. Because nowadays, you sneeze the wrong way and you're in the wrong. So I mean,
Yeah.
imagine this on a huge worldwide basis. People are going to start making some noise, and I'd say the more betterment for the game, the more safer the game, it's better for whole. And that's just my thoughts. I'm sure
Yeah.
you agree a little bit. I know, like I said, I
I
know I
do.
don't want to keep on this topic, but I just kind of
Yeah.
wanted to give my 2 cents like you did and just say betterment for the game. And
I do.
that's all I got. I mean, all sports
Yeah.
in general.
I agree. I wanted to at least bring it up.
Yeah,
I thought it was the right thing to do to acknowledge it and talk about
for
it
sure.
because we don't want to see something like this again. It's a hard way to open the show. It's very, very unfortunate, but we'll segue into something a little bit brighter. We normally lead off the show with NFL, so jump right into that. And
Okay.
I got some thoughts. Game that stood out the most to me was one of them anyway. Probably pertinent to talk about given what just happened a day or two ago. The Monday Night Football game, Lions and Raiders.
Holy moly. Yeah. You're
Lions
telling me.
came out. Yeah, the Lions came out with the W like I think we all thought they would. I thought it was going to be a little bit more lopsided because I just don't think the Raiders are any good, and I think that was kind of confirmed in the early parts of this week. We all saw in the middle of the night.
Yeah, last night, this morning. Yep.
McDaniel gets the axe. The GM gets the axe. Garoppolo gets benched. So it was Halloween Horror Nights for a lot of the Raiders brass and staff members. I don't know where they go from here.
Yeah.
I don't know. Benching Garoppolo is the answer given what they have behind him. Devontae Adams doesn't seem very happy with the situation. There was a lot of speculation about him potentially getting moved, and he didn't. So I don't know how long he remains a Raider, but it seems likely that obviously he'll finish out the season there. What happens beyond that is anybody's guess. But the Raiders, they're in a bad spot. They turmoil all around, and I don't know if it all the blame falls on Josh McDaniels, but I did hear some interesting stats about him. He apparently lasted longer in Denver than he did as the Raiders coach, which I thought was really, really interesting because
That's very interesting.
He didn't have a good tenure with the Broncos at all, and it just didn't seem like things were going worse.
You got a playoff win with your boy Timmy T.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
not to interrupt you, I'm sorry.
things were even worse with the Raiders, which was just surprising. But yeah, they're a mess right now. I don't know what about you, but I just don't know where they go from here.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. I was watching some Sports Center earlier tonight, and the saying goes, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, and it looks like what happens in Vegas came out of Vegas. And
right,
it's very interesting. Another stat that I saw about Josh McDaniels is, like you were saying, he lasted longer in Denver, and then he also didn't he go away from Indianapolis, like accept the job, and then 2 days later he said, "We'll see you later." So it's very interesting that the only time he's had success is with the Patriots as an offensive coordinator. And Mac Jones, we've talked about Mac Jones about 3 or 4 times on our show. He had his best year when he was his offensive coordinator. So I don't know if it's something with Bill Belichick or the Patriots, but it's just crazy. And another crazy stat is he's owed 5 more years because he signed a 6-year contract. So if he goes anywhere and he becomes either a coordinator or a head coach, that voids his contract. So I heard this morning that maybe Bill Belichick might want to bring him in as just like a offensive play caller. That way he's still got to get paid by the Raiders. So that's an interesting facet that I heard this morning. But
that's really interesting. I didn't know that, but that's something I wanted to bring up too. I'm glad you mentioned that because it adds an extra wrinkle. I couldn't believe when I saw that the Raiders, are obviously on the hook for McDaniel's contract right now, but they're also paying Gruden as well. And combined, they owe the both of them $80 million outstanding still. Yeah, I can't wrap my head around it. And it just got me thinking holistically, at what point do we see a cease of these NFL contracts, at least to coaches? I can understand it to the players, given the sport they play, the fact that it's violent. Players naturally want some money up front, in the event that they get injured while on the job. It's a natural thing to sort of want and expect for your own personal safety. But when it comes to coaches, these guys are not in the line of fire. They're not going to war out there on the field. I don't understand the sense of paying coaches a boatload of money, guaranteeing them X amount up front, so that when it doesn't work out, I would love to have that. Can I get that in my job?
Yeah, me too.
I'll take a position with a company, pay me up front, and if you fire me,
I suck at my job. I still get paid.
Pay me to not do my job and not work for you. That's a pretty cush gig. I don't understand that part. I don't know. Unless teams are just making way too much money where it doesn't even matter. But I have to imagine most owners are not okay with being on the hook for that. So I just don't understand that part of it.
Yeah, it goes both ways. You got to figure. I got some stats on the Raiders since we were talking about them. Crazy stat, since Mark Davis became the owner in 2012, his team is 74-114, which is a horrible record. So something has to go from the top. And also, as you were saying, why would they give it to him? But it's got to fall on the other end. Being the Raiders, yes, I'm going to do a 6-year contract, but should it be fully guaranteed? Maybe it should be approve it like 1 year, but you're guaranteed. If it's just it goes both ways. You know what I mean? It's on the coaches, and it's also on the head coaches. On the owners and the general managers. And another crazy stat. Remember Steve Bassani, the special teams coach after Gruden? He led the Raiders to the playoffs, and they told him to haul ass. And then they bring in Josh McDaniels, and now they're back in the same situation. So I thought that was kind of an interesting and funny stat. But
it is.
It's just very interesting because they haven't really had any success besides that year when they've been to Vegas. And Vegas is a fun town, but they're going to start. The diehard fans are going to start yelling and screaming on my end. That's what I think. But
Yeah, Raider Nation can't be happy right
Yeah,
now.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
They're a passionate fan base,
Mm-hmm.
as diehard as any, and they can't be happy right now. Not a good time to be a Raiders fan. I don't envy them.
Yep.
Another game I want to talk about them a lot, given my allegiance to them. Not a good time to be a Giants fan at all.
It's not.
It's what we saw this past weekend. Whew, it was the quote unquote Battle of New York was a doozy, to say the least.
It's a doozy to say the least.
I was listening to my man Rome, as I usually do, and his commentary on the game just had me in stitches. We know that a bunch of players went down. It's hard enough for the Giants when you're starting your backup quarterback to begin the game, and then you end up putting in your third string. It's hard to win a game like that. It's hard to make a game look good on the stat line, but it's also hard to be as bad as both teams were. And for the Giants to end the game with, I think it was -8 passing yards. Rome just mentioned that, not only did the Giants not do anything, but they did less than nothing, which I just thought was absolutely hilarious. I mean, they literally did less than nothing. You and I had more passing yards on Sunday than the Giants did, and we watched it from our homes or couches. It's just it's a tough time to be a Giants fan. I know it looks like Jones comes back this weekend. Barkley is, I guess, healthy, so it'll be the first time in a while that they have those two on the field. Incidentally enough, they actually play the Raiders, who we were just talking about. So I'd love to say it's an opportunity for the Giants to get in the win column with how bad the Raiders look, but the Giants still look like one of the worst teams in the league. I mean, you look at the others who are bad. Carolina finally got a win this weekend. We know that the Bears aren't good, the Cardinals aren't good, but the Giants are down there still with the 4 or 5, I think, worst teams in the league. And on the other side too, the Jets, man, the Jets looked bad as well. They just weren't doing anything against a very, very banged up, depleted Giants team. So just all around, to be a fan of either New York team is also, it's tough right now. It's just not a good look for anybody in New York.
Yep, 24 punts, 23 points. That was a crazy stat that I heard of it.
Ugly. It is.
Very
that
crazy.
Was a crazy stat.
One final last stat on the Raiders. Did you see who the interim coach is going to be now?
No.
Our farmer boy, Antonio Pierce, middle linebacker
for
the Giants. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. That. Yeah,
I liked Pierce back in the day. He was
I did too.
A good linebacker.
Yeah.
He was the centerpiece right when the Giants were coming into their third and fourth Super Bowls. He was a mainstay there.
Yeah, so he's the interim coach. So Boomer and Gio this morning were saying that they might come with a little bit of heat, because remember what happened last year with Saturday with the Colts that first came back. They won and beat the Raiders. Yeah. Actually, Raiders is the point of the show tonight, it seems like.
It seems like it. I mean, we talk about the stuff that makes headlines. The Raiders just had a fire sale, so I think it's worth talking about. The other game that stood out to me, there was a couple this week. The Broncos Chiefs. What happened in Denver? I just don't get that one at all. I mean, we talk about it so much. It's the old adage, any given Sunday, but just didn't see that one coming. It meant a lot to Broncos fans, I'm sure, to finally get over that hump. I think it was 15 or 16 straight or something. The Chiefs had their number. It was in Denver. They said Russ finally looked like Russ a little bit. Some of their players came through, but
I had 100 yards passing, though, so I don't know about that.
Yeah, exactly. When I saw that too, I'm thinking, how much did he really look like the old Russ? Man, that's a pretty ugly stat line too, which again begs the question, what happened to the Chiefs? How do you lose to a team with a quarterback? 24-9 when the opposing quarterback only throws for 100 yards. Kind of a head scratcher for me there.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it too. I know I've talked about it. The Broncos defense is playing out of this world. Yeah. And if you remember, a couple weeks ago, they played on Thursday night, and they only gave up, I want to say, 16 or 19 points to the same offense. So it was home, and I think that they haven't won since 2015. So, and I believe Mahomes is undefeated against the Broncos. So it's a very interesting stat. But we talked about the Chiefs since, episode 2, that their offense is either on and killer. Their offense is on and mediocre. They could lose any game. And this pulls to it 24-9.
Yeah.
So
that was Mahomes' first
Yeah.
road loss to a division opponent in his
that too.
career, which I thought was amazing. Just
wild stuff.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we talk about how bad their division is. The Raiders are a mess. I'm not a personal believer in the Chargers and the Broncos, of course, are just not good. So they have an opportunity to beat up on three teams twice a year. There's a lot of opportunities for wins, but Mahomes has been in the league for a number of years now. He's a regular. He's almost probably considered a veteran at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So to get his first loss to a division opponent on the road, I thought was
pretty impressive.
Yeah, pretty incredible. It speaks to just his dominance, really, since he's entered the league. A couple other games that stood out to me. There was some teams I guess you could say took care of business. They went the way we kind of expected. Dolphins mopped up the Patriots at home.
Yep.
Eagles took care of business against the Commanders just like a couple weeks ago. That was a close one. I mean, within a touchdown.
It went to overtime the first time.
Yeah, it did.
And
these divisional games, they play them pretty tight, I guess, but Eagles came out on the good side of it. So
if you remember last year, they gave the Eagles their first loss on a Monday Night Football game.
Yeah.
So the Commanders have played the Eagles tough the last 3 games. So that's very interesting fact. They're very cool. And it's a divisional game. So that just anything happens.
Yep. I want to give some props and a shout out to the boys up there in your neck of the woods, the Jags.
The Phil boys.
Silently steamrolling themselves to a 6-2 record. I think to me they're flying under the radar a little bit, but 6-2 is 6-2, and they look pretty good. They're surprising me.
I picked the Steelers, as we'll go later in the show, and to beat the Steelers on the road, and it looked like it was some crappy weather, so that was an interesting win with them. A crazy stat: they're 5-0 outside of Jacksonville because they won twice in London. And then 3 times on the road, or 2 times on the road. 3 times on the road. Isn't that crazy? So
it is. And
very crazy.
The poor Jags, the NFL for years now has maybe done them dirty, I guess you could say, by making
they do it to themselves, like I've mentioned before. They're just not a very smart franchise, but maybe they're turning turning the right page. I'm just saying. So
yeah, they could be, but they've impressed me. I think that division is probably theirs for the taking. The Titans, I think they got to win this week, but the rest of the division, Houston's not great. I mean, Titans they're still 3-4, so they've got a long ways to go. Houston's not good, and Indy just continues to sort of struggle. So it's the Jags. I think we talked about it in episode 1. We might have if there was any team that looked like they, going into the season, had a walk in the park to make the playoffs, it was probably going to be the Jags, and that looks like it's playing out the way we thought it would. There was one other game before we switch maybe to some college. The Bengals and 49ers, 3 straight games now for the Niners, coming away with an L. Kind of interesting. I saw a stat. Purdy started, I think, the first 5 games of the season. Want to say his touchdown to interception ratio was 9-0. No picks in the first 5 games. And then in the last 3, I believe it was 3 touchdowns, 6 picks, something like that. So bit of a reversal for him. We've talked about the injuries. Again, I'm a Debo owner. He's been out for a bit. A couple other guys banged up. But you got to wonder. I thought they were the most complete team for a while. Still don't know if I'm ready to retract that just yet, because they did lose to a Bengals team that looks like they've finally figured it out. But certainly looks like the 49ers have kind of come back down to earth a bit. And I'll tell you, that division is now looking
interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. It's sort of up for grabs, because another team that's sort of surprising me, and they've actually taken over first place share just because they've already had the bye, but the Seahawks are 5-2, and they've leapfrogged the 49ers at 5-4. So you look at that division, the Rams are not quite out of it. I know Stafford's banged up. They're missing a couple guys, but that division is wide open with the exception of the Cardinals. There's 3 teams in there that could be jockeying for position.
Yeah, I wanted to speak on that 49ers game too. We spoke about that when they were 5-0. We were calling them Brocktoberfest, and we said that they are the best team in NFL. I mean, the NFC, again, they were going to play the Eagles in, I think, week 12, I want to say. And it's just very interesting knowing that Brock Purdy, he was actually questionable up until Friday. He had a concussion. So maybe that concussion might have messed with him. I mean, he still threw for 365, but the Bengals, they found themselves. They come off that bye week, and Burrow's up to himself 3 TDs, which is really cool. And another stat that I found, I don't know if you knew this, but there was a score-gambi game. You know what that means?
No.
So the Rams and Cowboys game, a score-gambi, means that was the first ever 43-20 game in NFL history.
I didn't know the phrase, but I did hear that too.
Scorigami, I think it's called. Yeah, Scorigami. And I got it from my boy on NFL Red Zone, and they said it. But that's pretty crazy. Yeah, first time ever a 43-20 game. So that was pretty interesting and pretty cool to hear. Yeah. And, you touched a little bit on fantasy. It was a tough year for me. My team coming off the back-to-back championships, not to talk about fantasy as we really haven't, but I traded for Kirk Cousins, and what happens is he tears his Achilles. So,
yep.
Oof. I picked up Minshew Mania.
Shout out to Other Grossy. My brother.
Mike, I know.
I know you've been trying to work some trades with him in our fantasy league, and
he's not having it.
He and I have been chatting a little bit back and forth, and I know you were trying to wheel and deal, and potentially Cousins was involved, and we messaged each other today and said, man, it sucks for Dan right now.
I know.
So not only does your starting quarterback Cousins get hurt the very week that you trade for him, but then your backup quarterback Garoppolo actually gets benched. So
so I picked up your boy Minshew Mania, my friend. Minshew Mania. Let's do it.
Hey,
I'm gonna ride him.
Roll with the punches. He might be able to do some damage for you, but man, I will. I was feeling for you.
I know, and I'm trying.
I'll give you your kudos for the listeners out there. Dan is a 3-time champ in our league. There's one other guy who wears that same distinction, but he's also the defending champ as well. Right.
Back to back, my friend.
He's defending champ, trying to repeat, but having some struggles. It's hard to overcome your quarterback. You're kind of like the fantasy version of the Giants with quarterbacks just going down.
Well, I don't know. I think I got more talent than the Giants do. That's here nor there.
You do. Speaking strictly just for the quarterbacks, that's the only.
I know. Yeah, Mike, your brother Mike Grossi, who's also a fan of the show, he mentioned that we should do a little fantasy fantasy segment. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring it up a little bit. So when he watches it, I'm sure he'll text one of us and say, "Way to go, boys!" So that one's for you, Big Mike.
he mentioned that to me as well. So I think I personally resisted it a little bit at first because I'm not one to talk about what we kind of just talked about now is injuries and woe is me, the bad beats. Same thing with poker. I'm an avid poker player, and I get friends who play the game and we'll talk about their bad beats. Oh, you'll never believe that I lost my pocket aces to pocket kings or something like that. And same thing with fantasy football. You'll never believe I lost by 0.5 points this week. It's like, yeah, I do believe it because I've been playing fantasy football for 20 years. If it's happened to you, it's probably happened to me. I've probably seen it, but let's face it, the whole world pretty much plays fantasy football at this point. So it's a part of our lives, so we can mix it into the show. And we certainly take suggestions from our listeners, our family members. We appreciate it.
Friends of the show.
That's exactly it. But before we transition to some college here, and then we'll take a break in a moment coming up, I do want to share something that came across my desk. I think, Dan, you'll appreciate it. You haven't seen it just yet, but in the spirit of Halloween that took place yesterday, I want to give a quick shout out to Pete Sorodsky. Dan, if you pay attention to the spreadsheet that's sent out each week, Pete is a member of our suicide survivor pool. He's actually still alive in the pool, and he had a pretty interesting costume yesterday that I want to try to pull up on the screen here for you and the listeners to see. Check out this bad boy that Pete actually
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Mr. Dayball lookalike.
Yeah.
With the play sheet, the Tommy DeVito on there. And if you can zoom in on that, you'll see a sneak peek at the play call is run Saquon up the middle, but he's got the jacket on. He's even got the hoodie underneath there, the headset. I thought it was a 10 out of 10 in terms of style points. For
12 out of 12. 12 out of 12.
Yeah, 12 out of 12. He's got everything going down. I don't know if he even prepped his goatee and his beard, but man, he could be Dayball's stunt double. And
cool.
I even told Pete that he probably does better post-game press conferences than Dayball does as well.
Probably. That's
Shout
awesome.
Shout out to Pete Sorotsky there.
Very
friend
cool.
of the program, friend of the family. So he
Yes,
did a great job.
Very cool.
So switch gears just for a moment before we take a break, and then we got our beer segment coming up. I know you got some thoughts, Dan, probably on what took place in the college landscape this weekend. I got a couple games that stood out to me, but they were on a bye the week before, so I want to defer to you. Tell me what you thought about your Irish. They made another statement game, pretty lopsided score, but what'd you see in that game?
Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah. So to tell you the truth, it should have been a lot worse. And I don't know if you did some research on the game or watched any of the game, but our first two drives, we were in the red zone and we picked it. So, we threw a pick, and our next possession, we did a pick or a punt return for a touchdown, and that kind of set us off. And Xavier Watts, I mentioned him in the USC game. He had 2 picks and a fumble recovery. He also had 2 picks against Pittsburgh. So he's number 0 for all the friends at home that want to watch him. He's a beast. But 58-7, we're 7-2. We're playing very well, but I mean, it could have been a lot worse. And the boys came off a bye. The boys were at home, just ready to rock and roll, man. And I know I've said it since day one. If we just freaking stop Ohio State on 3rd-19 and we freaking beat Louisville in Louisville, we're number 1 in the nation, and nobody can argue that. But they're arguing it because it happened, and we're 7-2. But with the deep rest, I'm very happy with how the boys are doing. Happy with how they're looking. I mean, they're still playing hard. 58-7 is nothing to laugh about. But like I said, it just could have been a little bit worse. But I'll take a win. Nobody's going to be greedy.
Yeah, a win's a win.
A win is a win.
Sport. Yeah, I mean, it was a good win, 58-7. They did what they had to, beating an unranked opponent. It looks like you guys are still you're ranked 12th, so you're in the conversation. We talked about as we're coming towards the end of the season now, there's some opportunities for teams that are ranked lower than them, ahead of them, maybe to see some upsets and fall back. And there was a couple of those games. Oregon took care of business. They were they're 6 now, so they still got some position on you guys. But there was the upset of the week. I think it was Kansas. We all saw what happened with the stadium, the goalposts coming down. They beat Oklahoma, and it brought Oklahoma down to number 10. So there's an opportunity for you guys maybe to move up eventually ahead of them. Penn State's 9, so they're still ahead of you guys, but they obviously lost to Ohio State the week before. They beat up on Indiana, but they only won by, 10 points. They probably should have beat them a little bit better.
Yep.
So there's a couple of teams ahead of Notre Dame that, maybe they'll slide as we come down towards the end of the season and make things interesting for you guys.
Yeah, the only thing that's going to hurt us is those 2 losses, like I repeat, show after show. And we just got to keep taking care of business. If things happen ahead of us with Oklahoma losing, and like I said, they still got to play Texas again. Washington still got to play a Pac-12 championship. So we just got to keep winning and hope for some teams ahead of us to keep failing and keep losing, which it's a pretty decent chance. There's some pretty decent games this week. LSU plays Alabama, and that's a pretty solid matchup. But Georgia plays Missouri, which is a pretty solid matchup. So there's some things that can happen. Notre Dame just has to control their own destiny and keep winning. We have Clemson this week, which beginning of the year, if you could talk to any of my friends who I talk college football with, my friend John Millard, I've mentioned a couple times, that was supposed to be a night game in Clemson, and Clemson was supposed to be a top 10 team and supposed to be one of our games that we were going to take care of on the road. But Clemson, as everybody notices, I think they're 4-4. It's still a noon game. Still hard to play at Clemson, but a noon game is a lot easier than a night game. Yeah. So we just got to keep taking care of business, and we'll go from there. But going off of the rankings, I don't know if you saw last night that the football playoff rankings came out last night. Were you able to see the rankings?
I didn't catch that. No.
Yeah, so it's loading right now, but we have let me get it on my phone. It's a lot easier. So what what the football playoff rankings mean, or what they get about?
Yeah.
Okay, so pretty much what that means, they start this week, and it's the top 4 they play in the playoffs, and then the 5 and 6 are the first 2 teams out. So right now, Ohio State jumped Georgia, Michigan, Florida State are the top 4. And I think ultimately the reason why Ohio State jumped Georgia is because they're winning at Notre Dame and they're winning against Penn State. What are your thoughts on that top 4, maybe even top 6? It's Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Washington, and Oregon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought it up because I'm sitting here looking at them, and we've talked
Yep.
about it a couple of shows. The top 4, the AP poll still has Georgia 1, but we've talked about those top 4 that have just had a stranglehold on those 4 positions. There's not been any movement. It's just they've been the consensus: Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and Florida State. I think they've still got that locked up until somebody loses, really, I think is what it's going to come down to. Washington, I guess, sort of surprises me. They got that interesting game coming up this week against another ranked team, USC. So that'll be kind of interesting to see what they do there. But I think, as we've talked about, nothing's going to change with that top 4 until somebody loses.
Yeah, exactly. And as everybody knows, I've mentioned it 3 or 4 times. Thanksgiving Day weekend is Ohio State, Michigan. So that always ruffles up the rankings and shows who's going to be better. But
yeah,
it's really cool. And as I mentioned before, I got a lot of friends who are Florida State fans. It's cool in the top 4. This is the first time they've been this high since I want to say 2012. And I watched a lot of that game on Saturday. Jordan Travis is a good player. He's playing really good. They have really good tight end, Jaheim Bell. He's playing really good. And Trey Benson, he's a running back, and he reminds me of Todd Gurley back in Georgia and his first couple of years with the Rams. He's a hell of a player. And they have the top 5 receiver in Keon Edward. Yeah, Keon. He's really good doing one-hand grabs. So
yeah,
I think it's a very fun year.
It is a fun year. I'm looking forward to that Thanksgiving game. There's not much better than some turkey and some football, so that's going to be interesting. I wanted to get your thoughts. We mentioned it briefly on another show, but it's still in the news right now. Michigan and the cheating scandal, the sign stealing, whatever kind of label you want to put on it. I'm curious your thoughts on the whole thing. Really, I've not paid too much attention to it for a couple of reasons. The whole thing to me is kind of silly. I don't really understand or know what Michigan's being accused of, other than some sign stealing, people getting a hold of plays and things of that nature. But I do think the thing is just a bit silly. We're dealing with, they're not professional athletes, but they're close to that rank. A lot of them are getting paid now. So when you get to this kind of level and you're playing some serious competitive sports, I just think it's the old adage, right? People say, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. I'm not advocating cheating, but I just think as a professional athlete, if somebody's able to beat you by sign stealing and whatnot, I'm wondering if the burden lies on you to find a better way to conceal your plays, to disguise what you're doing. In a way, I kind of have to tip my cap to certain teams for finding a way to beat the other teams and expose maybe you call it their vulnerabilities, because we're not talking about things like Deflategate, where somebody is affecting the game by manipulating the elements of the game, the balls and things like that. You're not corking bats in baseball, all those types of things. This is operational, administrative. Is sign stealing. Somebody copies your playbook. Well, guess what? Do better. Disguise your plays. To me, I think the responsibility sort of lies on the teams themselves, but everybody's got their own view. I'm curious where you come out on that kind of stuff.
Well, everybody knows Notre Dame is a huge rivalry to Michigan, so anytime to big heat on Michigan, and I always try to. But plus Harbaugh, I think he's a scumbag. So he was actually
That's how you really feel.
Yeah, he's a scummer. He was suspended the first 4 games of the year already for doing some shady stuff with recruiting and everything. So I agree with you too. Yes, maybe do a better thing of hiding your signs. But what he did, I don't know if you read into it. I know you said you haven't read too much into it. They literally had 53 assistant coaches going to Big Ten teams, Big Ten games, and bringing more than just a notepad like you have right now. They were there to legitimately figure out what's going on with the teams and figure out their signs. Like if they hit their head, that means it's going to be a run, or if they go like this, it's going to be a pass. So I agree with you a little bit on do better at fixing it, but still, I mean, come on, it's a competitive game. Why would you want to be a scumbag to be a scumbag? And that's just
So
that's just my thing, you know.
I got something then to that point. If they're going and sending an army of people, whether it's 1 or 50, whatever the number is, how is that different than somebody, every player, like I think of hockey now, football, every sport, we talked about technology earlier. Everybody's got an iPad or some kind of device. Not only, it used to be back in the day, again, technology, grassroots kind of stuff, when people had projectors and reels of film. That was new at the time, and players would sit in rooms after the game, the week ahead of a big game, and they would study film. They would prepare for the team that's coming. So now, obviously, like I said, people aren't just doing it the day before or the week before. They're doing it at intermission. In hockey, it's a fast-paced game. They're doing it literally when their shift ends on the bench. They're looking at, hey, here's how this guy is setting up his power play, or here's where you beat this goalie by shooting high. How's it any different than sending an army of guys to a football game, to an opponent's stadium, and scouting it? For me, I just don't really see the difference.
Just because that was their whole intent, was to go there and actually sign, steal. And I see what you're saying. It's different from a scouting department. This was not really a scouting department. This was actually, it'd be, Greg Gross, Dan O'Brien, and everybody else. We're going there just to sign, steal. And I know it's hard to explain, but he knew exactly what he was doing when he did this. The football team, the whole football administration of Michigan, they knew exactly what they were doing. And people, on your end can say, oh, yeah, well, how's this different? It is different because, first of all, it's college sports, not professional sports. Second of all, you're going there for a reason to sign, steal. You're not going there to scout the team. That's just my thoughts. And I know that, I don't know.
Potato is my.
It is potato, but
yeah.
We can go on for this for hours. And
sure.
And like I said, it's just the way that they did it was just, again, a scumbag way, the way that he did it. So it's just, they knew exactly what they were doing, and they'll prove it eventually. And maybe a year down the line, you'll see, and you'll be like, Dad, you were right. You did a scumbag move. And I'll be like, yeah, exactly. I told you.
That's good. I mean, me personally, I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't view Harbaugh one way or the other. So I was just kind of objectively thinking about it. And I don't know, to me, it just didn't seem like a big deal, but it's good to know your opinion, where you come out on it.
Just look at his track record. Suspended the first 4 games of the year. I mean, he's known for doing shady stuff, and he's going to get caught, and looked like he got caught, and it's whatever, man. I just, I guess I don't want to use all my hatred because I hate Michigan, which I do, but it's part of it. But I got some facts behind it.
Yeah. We, I think we've covered a lot, and we've got our beer segment coming up soon. And then we got some other things we want to talk about. Definitely want to talk about some MLB. There's a game going now, and it could be the end tonight of the World Series. Yeah, we could be the end. So we want to make sure we leave enough time to talk about that. We'll probably mix in some NBA, maybe even some NHL. And of course we got our football picks to get to. So we'll take a short time out, and we'll come back with some beer reviews in a moment.
Yes, sir.
old Chevy on the side of the road. Start a party underneath the stars. It's always beer drinking weather out here. We get it pouring like a storm out here. No, there ain't nothing better whenever we together. It's beer drinking weather out here. Grab a cold can, a keg, or a long neck bottle. Top it on off, drink it down to the bottom. 24/7 every day, all year. It's beer drinking weather out here.
All right, we're back after a short break. We got to talk to the producer of this show. I don't know who that guy is, but he brought us back to the old beer music instead of the one that we had last week. So, got to have a chat with that guy. Sit him down.
Yeah, we do. We will.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing. Strike one for that guy. But we got our beer segment. We talk about it all the time. One of our favorite segments. And Dan, you got to keep me honest. I can't remember who went first last week. I think you're up.
Yeah, I think I'm up. You went last time, so let me get my stuff.
All right. I got a good one for you, but the floor is yours. So
I got a good one I've never heard of. I've never heard of this one, so I'm excited. All right, we got ourselves. It's called Parish Brewing, Ghost in the Machine. It is brewed and canned by Parish Brewing Company, Broussard, Louisiana. It's an 8% alcohol by volume. On the back, it's called Welcome to the Future. Our collective human consciousness, or ghost in the machine, has gained a tolerance for hops behind what mankind has ever known before. It's a double IPA is the necessary outcome. So check this bad boy, if you can see it.
I can. I like that can a lot. Ghost in the Machine is the name?
Yep, Ghost in the Machine.
Wow.
So
Nice.
I'm
Artwork,
excited
I like
for it.
that.
I went off.
9 out of 10 on
I
the
went
artwork.
off your little heavy. Yeah. So let's show you how to do a pour real quick. Oh, look at that color.
Looks good, man. It looks to me like almost like a shandy color, a summer shandy, that bright yellow almost, a little.
Yep, it looks
A
very. It's
little,
like a hazy IPA.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's hazy. I can see it now.
Smells like a hazy IPA. Smells very citrusy. So let's go ahead and give it a sip. Oh wow, that's really good.
Good.
That's really good. I'm gonna have to give that one a hold on. That's an 8.2. That's delicious. Holy moly.
8.2. Marking it down.
That is delicious. Holy moly. It's
like
not that citrusy, so it's very hoppy because it's double IPA, but it's got some fruit notes to it. So I taste a little bit of strawberry in a little bit, but it's delicious. Wow.
What was the ABV on that one?
8%, my friend.
8% strong. I like
Yeah,
it.
you got me on those 8%ers last couple weeks. You had a couple
Yeah.
boys, so I can't with it.
One more time. Where was that beer from?
It is from Parish Brewing Company, Parish Brewing Company in Broussard, Louisiana.
Louisiana. Okay.
Yep.
I like
yep.
it. I like it. Good stuff.
Yes,
All right.
yes, sir. Let's see what you
Let
got,
me
big dog.
show you what I got. So we push this show out. Normally, we do the show on Tuesdays. Yesterday was the last day of the month, which is kind of why I stuck with this beer. I've done a couple Oktoberfests. So I went with this one more time, even though we turned the calendar on the month. I did pick this for a couple other reasons. If you can see the can, I'm going to try to do my best to hold it up. It's going to be really, really small there. I don't know if you can make that out on the top, Dan.
Oktoberfest?
On the very, very top.
Destin? Destin.
Even above that, this is actually from Normal, Illinois, is where it's brewed. The brewery is called Distill. I think that's how you pronounce it. I think that's what you saw, but it's actually from Normal, Illinois. And I just thought the name Normal was pretty awesome. I can't imagine saying that you're from
That's
Normal,
pretty cool.
Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I picked it because it's also an Oktoberfest. I figured before the month ends, I'll get one more in. But I also chose it. If you notice on the can in the very middle, it is a beer that you picked last week, which was a Marzen. So I hadn't.
Oh
had
yeah,
too
look at you, brother. Good stuff.
It was a Marzen, exactly. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Kind of going with your theme, So this one, again, from Normal, Illinois, it's called Destil Brewery. It's a German style Marzen, and it's 5.8%. So, kind of not really sure what to expect with this. You had asked me if I had a lot of Marzens. I don't. So, don't have a bunch of experience, and really, really interested to see how I make
It's gonna
out
be a
with
dark
this.
color.
A dark color?
That's what I'm going with, like a brownish.
Well, we'll see. It definitely looks brown. Yeah, it looks brown.
You're getting better on the pouring, by the way. I'll have to give you a little hand for that.
Yeah, the first couple were not good, but this one is pretty spot on. That 1 inch head of
Hell yeah!
foam.
Look at you, brother. Good job.
So that's dark. It's reddish in color.
Yep.
Amber, however you want to describe it. German style. You can kind of smell those notes. You give it a taste. It's oof. That one's it's malty is what
I know. That's what I was telling you. Marzens are malty.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's got a lot of malt flavor to it. Not terrible, but it's there. It's there definitely. Let me give it another sip.
I can tell you're not going to be a big fan of this one. I already have the feeling.
I mean, you and I have been friends for quite a while. We hang out a lot.
Yeah.
We talk a lot. And you know me pretty well. Even before I even said anything, I try to hide my reaction a little bit. But you're spot on. I don't love it. And yes, it's my own personal palate. But we can only review beers with the taste buds we have.
Yep.
This one's not horrible, but it's not my favorite. I would say I think this is our sixth one now. We've been doing this every single show. I've mentioned it. The first one was my least favorite. This is probably just above that.
Damn.
So yeah. I'm going to go 7.7.
All right. Yeah. All right. I'm sorry. I thought you liked the Marzen, but hey, it's no big deal.
It's not terrible. It's just not. It's not my favorite. So
yeah, no big
marking
deal.
that bad boy down and recap it again. It was Destil Brewery. It's not something I've heard of before, but it's their Marzen. It's their Oktoberfest. 5.8% and a 7.7 for me on the scale. So there's the beer reviews. I love the segment. I think we're doing a good job. I hope
it's the best segment. Oh yeah,
entertaining, man. It's a good thing. So
yep.
Switch back to some sports for a moment. Talked about it. Benefit of doing this show live. There's a game going on right now. Baseball action. It's middle of the fifth. Looks like it's still scoreless. So a lot up for grabs right now. Obviously, Rangers win. The World Series is theirs. It'll be the first championship for Texas. And if the D-backs win, they force a game 6. This is a weekly show, so we haven't had an opportunity to really talk about the MLB since the Phillies were still around before we even got down to these final 2 teams. I had predicted them to upset the Braves initially. Didn't figure them. I thought it was going to be the Dodgers actually making it to the World Series, and Phillies didn't make it there either. I was kind of surprised the way that the NLCS went down. Didn't see the D-backs getting there, but they're here, and it's been an interesting first few games, really starting with that game 1 where the D-backs had the lead going into the 9th, and Garcia with a walk-off to end the game, really seemed to kind of light a fire under the Rangers. The D-backs came back game after that and sort of kind of even the series. I think you could tell they wanted to come back out and make it a series, and they did. They 9-1. They evened things up. Went into game 3 1-1, but really since then it's just been the Rangers sort of taking over. 3-1 victory after that. the game that they played yesterday, I know it was close. The score would probably indicate. I think it was closer than it actually was. I think it was 9-0 or something until the D-backs sort of started staging their late comeback to make it interesting.
In the first 3 innings.
Yeah. It kind of got away from them early. But here we are. I mean, it's November 1st. Series is 3-1. It's 0-0. Looking like it could be the Rangers' first ever World Series. What are you thinking from what you've seen so far?
I'm right there with you. I mean, that first game was, the walk-off, and then the second game, the Diamondbacks won 9-1, and then it's just been a different series in Arizona. I think the Rangers have come to play, and they're doing this, mind you, the last 2 games without Garcia. He's been out. He's off the roster, him and Scherzer. Garcia hurt his back by, I want to say, throwing out Christian Walker in game 3. I don't know if you saw that play or read about it, Greg.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting they're doing this all without all him. And I'm still going to go with my boys. I think they're going to force the game 7. They have Zach Gallen going tonight. And Zach Gallen, I don't know if you remember, he's the one who started the All-Star game for the National League. So he's a hell of a pitcher. And then they have Merrill Kelly that would go in game 6, who pitched a great game 2, 7 innings, only 1 run, 9 Ks. And I think they force a game 7. And unfortunately, I think the Rangers are going to win just because they're home. But I got faith in Diamondbacks. I think they force a game 7. What do you think? You think they wrap it up tonight? Kind of like what you were saying?
Tonight, I had a feeling that just the way the series is played so far, I really did think the Rangers would take care of business for no other reason, perhaps, other than Texas has won 10 straight games on the road, which I think is pretty amazing.
Well, they're 10-0. They haven't lost. They haven't lost.
Right.
10-0.
Yeah, 10-0 on the road. So I kind of think the way things have gone, especially even now as we're doing this live, I mean, I think this game plays into their favor a little bit with it being scoreless. So I think they get it done. We'll see. Our show will be wrapped up before the end of the game. We'll see if they get it done. But it's interesting, I think at the onset of the series, the last episode or the one before that, we did our predictions on the length. I think you said 6 and I said 7, and we're pretty close to that. But just the way the series has gone so far, it's been so wild that I actually do think Texas wraps it up tonight.
Yeah, I just think my boy Gallen. I think Gallen's going to throw a really good game tonight. So far, he's got 4 scoreless innings. So, that's my boy. Yeah.
I've been pretty impressed with the way the Rangers have come to play. A guy like Corey Seager's just been all over the place. He's brought his bat. He's brought his bat. He's brought his fielding. I've been really impressed how much they've been able to lean on him and how much he's stepped up to the plate. We've talked about this before. I saw some articles, some memes, whatever you want to call it, about the attendance, the viewership, things like that, the ratings of this World Series and how it's down and that it's declined several years now. I don't know what to make of that. I think this has been the lowest viewership and ratings since 2016, which is when the Cubs won the World Series. And I was really interested to see the ratings prior to that, because I don't know if they were higher in around the 2010 mark or so, but I have a feeling 2016 probably saw a huge spike in ratings because the Cubs, they hadn't won a World Series in 100 years, a century. People's grandparents were not around to see the last Cubs World Series. So it's only natural you're going to get a whole bunch of people tuning into that. So I don't really know what to make of the low ratings, the low viewership. We know that baseball is just falling out of favor with some of the younger fans, and to baseball's credit, I think they're doing things to make the game.
As our friend Chip said.
Yeah, Chip, right. He did bring it up, what they were doing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but it's going to be interesting. So we'll see what happens. I think that goes off of just because Arizona is not a big baseball town, but the fans in Arizona, they still love their Diamondbacks. And I think it's okay. I think the ratings will improve. If it goes to a game 7, I think the ratings will be there.
I do too, and there's still some talk about the MLB and whether or not they're going to expand to 32 teams.
Which they
the
should.
NFL, yeah, I don't see a reason really not to do it. The NFL did it a number of years ago. The NHL recently did it with the expansion of Vegas and Seattle.
NBA's talking about doing it too.
Yeah, the NBA is not quite there
Yep.
yet. I'm surprised. I think they might get it done first. Baseball does seem to be slower to react to certain things, but to your point, I think it makes sense to do it if the market makes sense. And we know what's going on in Arizona with the Coyotes and the NHL. There's some talk about them possibly moving out. The market for hockey
They
has
play in
been
a college
there.
stadium. I mean, what the heck?
They do.
You know?
They do.
Yeah.
I don't think that the Diamondbacks are quite on that level. I think, in my opinion, it's a bit of an overreaction. Like you said, I think the fans are there. There's a lot of things that can explain the viewership and the ratings. I don't know that it's necessarily lack of fans or following for the team itself.
There's a lot of stuff going on too. People can watch whatever they want.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Think about it. The World Series does have it tough just in general because, as we've talked about it, this is a great time for us to be doing this show because there's a lot of other things to hold people's attention. You got the NFL, you've got college, and hockey and basketball are now in season 2. So there's other things to grab people's attention where they're not maybe just necessarily focused on baseball. We've talked about it before. I don't have a particular rooting interest in the World Series, but as a sports fan, as a baseball fan in general, I'm going to tune in. We've got the game on now, and it's not just because we're doing this show. If I wasn't doing this show, I'm a sports fan. I'd be watching the game anyway. Am I going to be watching every single pitch, every single game all the time? No, but I'm a sports fan, so I'm going to be tuning in, and I feel like a lot of people
right there with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So we got to get to our NFL picks, but before we do, I know you might have some thoughts on some NBA or some NHL. You want to share anything about either one of those before we get to our locks and upsets of the week?
Yeah, I'll shoot some NBA. You want to shoot some NHL? How about that?
Yeah, let's do both.
That work for you? So, I remember when we started NBA last week, I told you about 2 teams that were going to surprise everybody. The Orlando Magic, so far they're out to a 2-2 start, and the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're out to a 3-1 start. So they're going to be coming hard. And like I said, those are my 2 boys. I know you put it on ink. You should probably, I know you have it on your little noteboard. So we're good there. But NFL, I mean, the NBA has been very exciting so far. A lot of teams are coming out of the field going good. I mean, the defending champions, the Nuggets, are 4-0, and the Celtics are 3-0, and the Mavericks are 3-0. So there's some teams that are playing really well. And there was a big trade that just happened with the Clippers and the Sixers. James Harden went from the Sixers to the Clippers. So they have a big 4 potentially with Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Russ Westbrook, and Paul George. A lot of older guys, but they got now a 4 superstars, as they would say. So, but another cool thing that's happening, starting November 3rd, they're going to have an in-season tournament. And what this is going to be, I'm not 100% because it's brand new for this year. They're going to have group play where all teams have been randomly drawn into groups of 5, and their conference is based on win-loss records. And what they're going to do is they're just going to play a tournament, and it's going to go with the regular season wins-loss. But I think what it's going to do is it's going to bring more fan viewership because they're trying to do it like the college basketball tournament, March Madness. And what's going to happen is the winning teams are going to get a couple bonuses like $300,000, $200,000, and $100,000 for first, second, and third. And I think they're just trying to make NBA more important during the middle season when it's kind of slow. So I don't know if you've heard of anything like that, but it's something that they're trying to push.
That was on my list too to bring
the
up.
in-season tournament, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was Barstool or somebody. I saw these graphics of the courts for the in-season.
Yeah, they're all going to have
tournament.
interesting courts.
And
Yep.
yeah, I looked at them, and man, I'll tell you,
They look a little funky, don't they? They look a little funky.
They look
a little funky.
very funky. It was like a color explosion. Maybe it was just the view of the static image on the screen that I was looking at, and maybe it'll look different and better if you're at the game. I'm sure it probably, if you're a player and you're on the court, you don't focus on the court and what you're actually standing on. But just looking at the images when I saw them, it was like, woof. I don't know, just a color explosion. Yeah. It seemed distracting. Some people were commenting on the design, maybe the creativity, the overall appeal, and I didn't see it. To me, they all looked pretty hideous. Just it was a splash of color, like taking a paintbrush on the court, and I don't get it. Maybe
like I'm doing a whole bucket of paint and then just going like this with it. It looked really weird.
Yeah,
I was thinking the same thing.
I don't get it, but more than anything, I'm trying to wrap my head around what you said, and I didn't get a whole lot of time to look into it, but tell me again, and maybe for the listeners out there who are confused like me, what exactly does the in-season tournament mean for the postseason and the championship? Does it have a bearing on the standings in the playoffs, or is it just something totally external to the actual 82-game season?
So it's hard to explain because I haven't wrapped my head around it either. I've been trying to figure this out too. Pretty much what's happening is from what I can get with it is they're trying to bring more eyes to the league by not just having boring old Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday games. And like I said, the prize pool will be allocated to players on teams that participate in the knockout rounds, with allocations increasing depending on how far a team progresses. So I don't think there's any ramifications towards the playoffs. I think it's just trying to do something different and making something important, like fun and different. And like I said, that's what I've gotten from it just by reading this. And it seems kind of funky and weird to me, but maybe they're just trying to get something different and gain heads, because a lot of people love the March Madness. So maybe they're trying to do like March Madness, if I had to guess.
Yeah, it does.
Just funky.
Funky is a good way to describe it, because I'm looking at NBA.com.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too, in-season tournament, and they have all that. They don't really give us a thing, but it looks like they're just trying to play for more money, I guess.
I see I got the in-season tournament 101. It says the rules, format, and how it works. It says the inaugural season will tip off Friday, November 3rd. So that's this week. And it culminates with the championship on Saturday, December 9th. So it's a brief period. I guess you could say a month or so. It sounds like it's, like you said, it's sort of isolated. It's a tournament within the season that I don't think will have any actual effect on the season and playing towards the normal NBA championship. But the summary here, it does say that the in-season tournament will consist of 2 stages, group play and the knockout rounds. All 30 teams have been randomly drawn into groups of 5 within their conference based on 1-loss records from the 2022-23 regular season. So it was based on, I guess, last season's results, which is even more odd. I mean, this new season's already began.
Yeah, it's just funky.
It really is. It's hard to criticize leagues, I guess, to your point, maybe trying to draw more interest and make things fun. But man, again, call me old fashioned, get off my lawn kind of guy. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I just do not understand.
I'm the same way.
This I don't. If it's that much of a problem where you feel the need to have to create some kind of tournament within the season, then do what the MLB is contemplating and shorten your season. I mean, I don't get this tournament within a season concept, but to each their own. I guess if it boosts ratings, good for them. But
they want to stop people from resting their star players too. I think that's what goes into it. Also, a lot of people are like, the stars on the teams, they're load management, as they call it. I don't know if you've heard that name before.
Yeah,
they call it load management. So I think a lot of this is going after not having load management. So kind of making the middle of the season per se more exciting than just, like I told you earlier, Tuesday game, Wednesday game, Thursday game. And maybe it'll involve the fans more, and they'll say, okay, I was a in-season tournament champion inaugural. And I don't know. We're going to learn how it goes, because we're going to be doing the show actually towards the tournament. So we're going to learn together, as we would like to say. So
learn on the fly. I guess it's a new experience for all of us.
Yeah, exactly.
You brought up an interesting point, because I have heard it before, guys, load management, which is, I guess maybe you can consider it something similar, compare it to baseball, where there's some teams subscribe by the pitch count, some don't. I guess
yeah.
it's kind of similar to that, but to me, this is something sort of unique to basketball. I really do think it's that, because we don't see this. Granted, football is a lot shorter of a schedule. They only play once a week, but we all know hockey players are just a different breed. In my opinion, they're the toughest of the athletes out there, the sport that they play, but it's the same length of season as basketball, as the NBA. And there's just no such thing in the NHL as load management, resting your star players. The guys are out there. They're warriors. They play banged up. I just don't get it. To me, this seems like a unicorn thing that only the NBA deals with. I don't know if it's, hate to say this, but just the diva athletes that play that sport that just
definitely more divas in basketball. Yes.
Yeah. It's some kind of mentality and mindset. And I feel like there's people out there, there's fans. I'm not the biggest basketball guy, but I know that the fans out there, some people glorify this kind of stuff. They look at these athletes as just on this pedestal. And I'm not trying to paint all NBA players with a broad brush, but it just seems like there are a lot out there who wear that diva crown. They feel the need to take off in the middle of the season. And I don't know the best way to combat that, but again, sports show, we're just thinking out loud, posing ideas. Maybe you have to shorten the bench. Maybe you allow for fewer players on the bench so that there's less opportunity for your stars to be held out. Either that, or ultimately the players and maybe the coaches themselves. I think personally, if you're a coach or a GM of a team and your player himself decides to actually sit out and sort of refuse to show up for work, to me, that's, grounds for dismissal, or, you don't want to punish the guy if he's one of your star players, or you don't want to fire him rather, but I think it should be punishable. It's no different than if you or I.
No call, no show. We call it no call, no show.
Yeah, exactly. If we don't show up for work, we're going to get fined. We're going to get our paychecks withheld. And I think that's something that should be done to players. Either that, and if it's not done, then to me, that just shows a GM or an owner's acceptance and willing to accept the loss. Hey, I'm okay with my star player. And again, not naming names. To me, I don't care who it is. It's just a fundamental weird ideology that, hey, it's an 82 game season. I'm above having to show up and dress for all my games. I mean, it goes back to pride. I mean, what are you wearing your uniform for? Why are you collecting that paycheck? Is it to win a championship? Are you playing for a team? Or are you self-centered, conceited, greedy, all those negative adjectives and connotations that rightfully, I think you have to wear that badge if you're one of those guys. Again, we're talking about things not considering injuries. If you can't play because you're injured, you're injured. But these are guys who just they're not competing is what it comes down to. They're not giving it their all. When you talk about load management, to me, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
And the only thing similar, and I don't want to make this similar, but it equivocates to when you're playing baseball and you have a 4-game set, and sometimes, let's say, Aaron Judge doesn't want to play that 4th game. That could be the only thing that's similar to load management. But then again, you do 82 basketball and 162 MLB, so you can't really equivocate it. But the only thing similar would be that's quote unquote load management, would be not playing that 4th game or not playing that day game after a night game. And like I said, I'm just throwing it up for debate, but it's not similar, but it is similar, in baseball.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, it is. No, it's good thoughts. I'm kind of the same opinion. There's similarities. So yeah, I don't mean to paint all the basketball players.
Yeah, neither do I. That's why I wanted to equivocate it to baseball and talk about a little bit of baseball with that, 4th game on a 4th game in a row, or a day after a night game, or whatever. But
yeah,
we're almost up to that magic number for us. So I don't know if you want to hit a little NHL or what your thoughts are.
Yeah, we're running long. There's been a lot of good topics today. Some we focused on longer than others, but it's been good, and we're almost on time. So we'll make sure we get our picks in. We talked about it, a little bit of prep work before the show starts. You and I, we've not been great, but we've not been terrible. We're doing our locks and our upsets of the week. and they are just that. The locks are teams that we think are guaranteed to win, but we are picking them with the spread, so it's not exactly a cakewalk. And if you think about it on the reverse, the upsets are they're just that. They're upsets. They are teams that are probably not supposed to win, but we think that they could upset somebody. So right now, tallying it up on the season since we've been doing these picks, I am 5-5, and it looks like you are 4-6. So we're pretty close.
Hey-o.
500-ish is not terrible because again, we're taking spreads into consideration. So I think all in all, we're not too bad. So I've got the lines up right now. Actually, let me just recap.
I think I went
again.
first last week, so you go first this week, and then I'll go
Yeah.
second. I think that's how we should do it. But yep.
Before we get into that, so the games that occurred last week,
Oh yeah.
I had my lock was the Chiefs, and I had them winning by 8, and they lost by double digits, which I just don't get. I am upset. My upset was Cleveland getting 3 points, and as fate would have it, we always say Vegas knows what they're doing. They ended up losing by 4, so I just missed that mark. But I went 0-2 for the week. You on the flip side, you had Houston winning by 3, and we know that they lost to Carolina. And you had Pittsburgh getting 2.5, and they lost by, I believe, double digits as well. So, yeah, so both of us 0-2 on the week, and we'll try to look to rebound here. I did some very, very early scouting to try to come up with my lock and my upset. There's a couple games that are tough on the schedule. Baltimore and Seattle. I've got -6 right now.
I just was looking at that right now. Yep. Looking at that right now.
I think I am going to use that as my upset. I'm going to say Seattle.
All right now. All right now.
I'm probably going to eat those words just because of what I said last week. I was, after the Ravens put that beat down on the Lions, I said that I was not giving the Ravens the respect they deserve. But I also think I'm not going to try to make the same mistake twice. Talked about it earlier in the show today. I don't want to not give Seattle the respect that they deserve. I know they are on the road. It's a tough place to play.
And they're getting 6 points. That's not bad.
6 points is a lot. I could have seen 3, 4, something. But I think Seattle keeps it close. I do think they keep it within 6 points. So that's my upset. And then going into my lock, there's a couple things out here. It's a tough week. Nothing really stands out to me too much. I mean, I guess we didn't describe the rules, and I want to get your thoughts on the fly here. What if we take a lock for a team that is not projected to win? So, for example, I'm looking at the Rams getting 3 points in Green Bay. That would technically be an upset, but is it within the confines of the rules to allow me to take that as a lock or no?
That's a lock, like getting 3 points, or just like as a win straight up? Maybe we do a win straight up in that situation.
As a win straight up, right. If it's, if we're taking them as the lock of the week, they wouldn't get the points. They would just have to win 3 points. Up. Correct. It's just weird that I'm just thinking of these scenarios where
I think that's a good deal. What do you think? Because if they're getting points, that would be
Yeah. And I'm not saying I'm taking, I'm just thinking about, because there's another game too. I'm looking at the Bucks. It looks like I've got the Bucks getting 2.5 to Houston. And to me, that's a little disrespectful to the Bucks.
I got 3 on my end.
Okay. I have 2.5. So you have 3. So
I got 3 on my end. Yeah.
We could split the difference and pick one, but it's same scenario. You know, if I wanted the Bucks as my lock, I just take them without the points. So those are a couple potential.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, I think that's pretty fair, right? Don't you think?
I like it. I do. So we'll.
Yeah, I think that's fair because you're not taking points, but you're taking them to win. So I think that's fair.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Looking at the other games, I mean, there's just some tough games this week. Buffalo, Cincy should be a good one. Dallas, Philly should be a good one. Giants, Raiders, we talked about as a toss-up. It's interesting, but I'm gonna I'm going to do what we just said, the new wrinkle and rule, and I'm going to go Bucks to win outright against Houston. I'm just CJ Stroud. I know he's had a good start to the season, but I think the Bucks get back in the win column this week, even being on the road. So give me the Bucks to win straight up.
All right. I bet you know who my lock is going to be. So we're going to save a little suspense for later. But we're going to do the upset first. Or not the upset. We're going to do the same thing you did, new wrinkle. We're going to take my lock, not a wrinkle. We're going to take my lock as the Steelers -2.5 on a Thursday night, tomorrow night against the Titans with rookie Will Levis, who I'm a little pissed off because I missed out on him on fantasy. But, hey, that's here nor there. I already had conversations with old Brady, but that is what it is. Yep. So, yeah, that's going to be my my lock. Actually, I screwed up. Hold on. Back the bus up. Bus up.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I screwed that one up, man. I screwed that
All
one
right.
up.
It's a live show. The listeners.
Because my lock is going to be, hey, let them come my way because this is going to be cooler. My lock is going to be Min, Shu, Main, E.
Ooh, okay.
My dude. Okay. Yeah. -2.5 is what I got. That's my lock.
All right. We are doing a little redacting there.
Yeah, that's on me. That's on me. I apologize.
It is the same. I'm seeing the same spread, though, -2.5.
Yeah, well, I got to ride my boy Minshew Mania because he's going to bring me to the playoffs in fantasy. I'm telling you, that's my dude. Minshew Mania. And then, and then my upset is going to be, hold on. Sorry. My upset is going to be the Vikings +4.5 against the Falcons.
The Vikings +4.5.
Yep. Is that what you got?
I do see the same spread. So you've got
coming upset. Off of Cousins off, but they got this rookie, Jaron Hill, 5th round draft pick out of BYU. He was I want to say a 3 to 4 year starter at BYU. So he's got the skills, and the Vikings are on a 3-game win streak, and they're going to have things to prove because their team is still pretty good. I mean, obviously we know Cousins was carrying it, but they were looking good, and I think their defense is playing good. Addison is playing really well. KJ Osborne is playing really well as the wide receivers. They still got your boy, TJ Hawkinson. So, it's
question for you on that game.
Sure.
Number one, is Hawkinson healthy? I thought I saw something that he was banged up, but maybe I was just imagining.
I haven't heard anything. I'm looking right now. I haven't seen anything, but he could be a little banged up, but he'll be ready to rock. I'm not worried.
I think they definitely need him because Cousins out. They're still without Jefferson, right? Or is he back this week?
No, they're still out, but they got Addison, who's been killing it. And like I said, this guy, Jaron Hall, he's a 5th round rookie at a BYU. He was a 3-4 year starter at BYU, and he had some good years at BYU. So I think they're going to +4.5 is a lot, and they're on a 3-game win streak. And the Falcons are starting Taylor Heineke. Taylor Heineke is starting for the Falcons. That's what I was
going to ask. Heineke, Ritter's out, and Heineke's in. So
not even Desmond.
Yeah.
So
all right,
those are my licks. Those are my picks.
Yeah, we'll see. Both of us, we were 0-2 last week. We'll see if we can rebound, and we're pretty close. So I'm glad we're doing this. We keep it going. It makes things interesting, and it's an easy commitment for us. We pick a lock and pick an upset. I like it. Awesome.
Yep.
Well,
before we leave, I haven't seen you touch your beer in a little bit, so go ahead and take another little swig. I know you don't like it.
You were, when you were making your pick, you were probably studying the screen, but I did just take a sip a moment ago. But I'll take another one for you.
All right, touche, sir. Touche, sir.
Yeah, but almost done with it.
I think that was a phenomenal show, my friend.
I think it was a phenomenal show. We're getting better and better. Good things on the horizon for us. Thank everybody out there for listening, for supporting us. Say it all the time. We're on repeat, but we can't say it enough. Hit us up on all our social platforms. Let us know how we're doing. Interact with the show. Twitter, Facebook. We're not on Instagram now. We're accessible via email. Eventually, we're gonna get a phone number and start taking calls. But we're out there on the platforms. We want to hear from you guys, and we do appreciate everybody that's listening. We hope we're bringing entertainment and information to you. Dan, there's nobody else I'd be wanting to do this with. That's another one in the books. And next week we might have a couple additional guests, but we know one thing's for certain: we will have some entertaining content. That's for sure. Yep, we will be here, and people will know how to find us. So that's a wrap.
Minshew Mania. That's what we got. Minshew Mania coming at you.
We will see how that works in a week. Everybody have a great evening. Peace out.
Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Everybody come see the greatest show. Everybody come, everybody come.